Not only has the descent of God a particular technique of its own, but the manifestation of His power also has its own mode. Or to put it otherwise, though the time and the purpose are the same for the incarnation of God and His power, which are inseparable like fire and heat, yet the objective is attained through the masculine body in one way and through the feminine in another. Thus, it is that, even though the entity cannot be split up, there is a special value in following separately the events that accompany the feminine counterpart. In the Chandi, the goddess says, "Whenever there arises any obstacle from the demons, I shall come down in this way to destroy the enemy." In olden times, there was constant need for destroying the demons, as they oppressed good and bad men alike. Their destructive power is not, however, confined to the physical plane. The constant conflict that rages in human hearts between good and evil tendencies is also described in the Upanishads as a battle waged by the demons against the forces of goodness. In the present age, this struggle has assumed the form of a challenge thrown out by disbelief, materialism, and sensuality to belief in God, faith in the immortality of the soul, and adherence to godliness. It is in consequence of this challenge that there has been a growth of irreligion, envy, enmity, and passion, which are a constant source of war, resulting in the loss of innumerable valuable lives. The conflict on the psychological plane in the modern age is even more devastating than the old mythological war between the gods and the demons. The old antagonism seldom overstepped the limits of the physical world, but the present struggle has originated in the mental plane and is spreading to all spheres of everyday life, thus laying the eggs at the very root of humanity. Hence, the action of the divine power under existing circumstances has to be mainly on the mental plane. Above everything else, the present-day world needs moral progress and spiritual enlightenment. If faith, purity, and devotion can once attain supremacy, the outer world is bound to change. The incarnate divine power is, therefore, now engaged in fighting internal enemies. The victory may come either by liquidating the sinner together with his sin, or by transforming him through the natural attraction of genuine good feelings. The conversion of a heinous hurt through moral excellence presupposes a greater strength than is necessary for killing an enemy outright. So, in the present incarnation, there is no clanging of weapons or the din of war, but there is an abundance of modesty, humility, purity, goodness, practical love, and spiritual experience. Moreover, the deity has not only to remove obstacles, she has also to establish new goals and create fresh aspirations. And this is a tremendous task. God Himself need not come down for removing all hindrances from the path of His devotees. This can be accomplished by an inspired soul or by a partial divine manifestation. As the whole of humanity has to be raised to a higher pitch of realization, divine power herself takes the field. The emergence of the divine power today on the hoary background of Indian culture is indicative of a unique reanimation. Particularly, it is bound to be so among women, the need of whose advancement is admitted on all hands. We cannot do better than echo the words of Swami Vivekananda, who was convinced that India cannot prosper without revitalizing her womanhood, just as a bird cannot fly with one wing. Quote, and therefore it is that when God incarnated as Sri Ramakrishna, He worshipped God as Kali, the mother, accepted a woman as his guru or spiritual guide, assumed the role of a woman in some of his spiritual strivings, took upon himself the responsibility of educating and training his own wife, and preached the motherhood of God." Unquote. In the middle of the last century, the womanhood of India was faced with a tremendous problem. India then was being swept off her feet by foreign ideals. A craze for imitating the West set in at the cost of indigenous values. The plan of educational reform envisaged in the dispatch of Sir Charles Wood, dated 19th July 1854, gave only a vague indication of the kind of training that Indian women would get. True it is that India was not entirely wrong in welcoming foreign ideas and practices. On the contrary, it is quite in keeping with Indian tradition to enrich her life by assimilating foreign ideas while still retaining her own individuality. There is need for energizing our womanhood by drawing a little on foreign sources in order to make national life more vigorous and fruitful, at the same time that the West also learns something of our veneration for motherhood, so that Western civilization may have a stronger spiritual basis and a longer lease of life. But though each civilization has much to learn from another, it will spell disaster if the basic distinctions are ignored. For though women are honored everywhere, that honor very often appears in the form of chivalry and appreciation of feminine charms. But India eulogizes chastity and motherhood, since the ideal aimed at is spiritual freedom, which has for its foundation absolute self-control. Our ideal specimens of womanhood are Sita, Savitri and Damayanti. There is an evident conflict between the two standpoints, and future world civilizations have either to choose sides or seek a rational reapproachment.